Yeah, well, I think we're finally going to get the Greyhawk.
Yeah, and with it, okay, and then with that, I think it's going to be kind of like a big episode for my character.
Yeah.
When we
And
get
there we go. Now I'm talking to. Hey, welcome to welcome to Tavern Talk.
Hey.
Hello.
And now we have audio. So.
Oh, did none of us have audio there?
Yeah, none of us had audio there. Anytime that this program updates, it fucks all of my audio. And I mean, it's weird because normally I don't have to have the desktop audio set to my microphone, which is what I'm running my audio through. Mm-hmm. It'll just pick up whatever comes through on the desktop, no matter what I have set. Oh, you know what? I know what it is. I know what the problem was. It's actually my problem. I set it here. And that's what usually messes it up. If I don't have my desktop audio set to my microphone, it messes up all the audio. So that was on me. That's not so much the program. That was on me again. So
it's a good thing that you're sort of an IT guy.
Yeah, sort of. Kind of an IT. I dabble. But welcome. We were off 2 weeks ago. Because
yes, that's right. You had a nice trip.
Yep. It was also Memorial Day, so.
Yeah, but you had a nice trip down to visit your new family member.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. So.
Yep, granddaughter. She's really sweet.
Happy baby.
Very happy baby.
Have you gotten her her first D&D onesie yet?
No, but we did get her first.
We got her Z's for Zamboni.
Yes, we got her,
which is an ABC book.
Yep, we got her first Red Wings onesies. And it hasn't come in yet. It was supposed to be in before we went down, and it's been delayed, and I haven't even seen. We might have canceled it, but it was her first Chelsea onesie.
Yeah, it got canceled on us.
Okay, I thought it was just delayed.
Initially delayed, and then they flat out canceled it.
Oh, okay. And then what we want to get her is a DCFC onesie.
Yeah.
So the Detroit City FC. So, which actually we might get that.
We did get her first Red Wing and Lions onesies though.
No, we did not get her a Lions one.
No, wings.
I would not do that to a child.
You wouldn't subject her to that.
No, she can root for the Titans.
Let her
I care. She doesn't need to grow up with this negativity.
Yeah, right.
Or she can make her own life choices.
Yeah.
For football, yes.
Yes.
Hockey,
Red Wings are a must.
Yes. Hockey, no.
Yeah. She is not allowed to be a Predators fan?
Predators? Yeah.
No, she can no. She is not a Preds fan. No. Nope. Her mom won't let her be a Preds fan.
Good.
All right.
Veronica's still a big Wings fan, so. But yeah, so welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for coming back. Russ should be joining us in a little while. He had to take care of a couple of things, but
not a problem.
So
that's the nice thing about this. It's more of a casual talk.
It is. That's what I want this to be.
To be available. Yeah.
Yep. I want it to be a casual talk. Which actually, I'm going to move this over here so I can actually see if somebody comes into the chat. So I want this to be more of a casual chat. A casual chat where we can just sit around and talk. People can come in and out. Even if other people can't make it for except for maybe a half an hour, they can come in, they can leave. It's just that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So we've got a couple of episodes to talk about because we've actually done 2 episodes since the last one that we did.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
So it's in the previous episode, you guys actually had made it. Hey, Premise Land. Thanks for coming back. Good to see you. But yeah, so in the previous episode, you guys had made it to Scant in the country of Onwald, or Onwall, and were unloading the cargo. And you guys had a couple of days, really 1 full day, on your hands. And you had gone into town that day, the day you got there, and decided that you were going to hang out at the pub that night, or at the one tavern. The harbor master was going to meet you there. You all met there, and then some shit went down in town. and there was an attack.
A lot went down all of a sudden. 2
Yeah.
manticores, a couple fire-breathing dogs, and a few raiders, right?
Yep. So.
And
you guys were able to dispatch them pretty easily. Thanks, actually, to some quick thinking.
Mean, one of us went down.
Yeah.
That wasn't me for once.
Yeah, Octavian just kind of poked his head out just to see what the heck was going on, and then
obliterated.
Before the next turn, he was just down, like went down to 0 in 1 turn. He didn't have any time to react.
Nope.
Pretty much. Or cleric, but by the way.
But with some quick thinking by Klimbrum, who used the iron bands of Bolero to basically yank a manticore out of the sky and bind it on the ground, where it was still able to attack, but it wasn't able to maneuver anymore.
Yeah.
Which actually made it easy for you guys to dispatch it. You were able to take out the other one up in the air, and you were able to dispatch the hounds as well as the raiders that were coming in. A search of the bodies did turn up some emblems of the Scarlet Brotherhood, which wasn't a surprise to the harbor master or really anyone in town, because they knew that there were some remnants still out there that had been causing trouble as they were trying to rebuild.
And that's what kind of gave us our motivation for the last game.
Yes.
To kind of take the extra day to do some hunting, more or less.
Yeah, which we'll get to. So you guys wound up hanging out, and after you saved everyone and you went back in and were talking about things, you did find out that basically the history of this town, that during the wars, they were occupied by the Scarlet Brotherhood. The Scarlet Brotherhood had completely taken them over. It's a group of basically evil monks and things from down south across the sea, and they didn't want to leave, and they were actually there up until about a little more than a year ago, and when they were finally forced out. And the town of Scant, the capital of Anwal, which you can see was a pretty large city previously, but only has, I think it's only like 1,200 people right now, at most.
Okay.
So it's a much smaller town now. It's more like a village size. But they're rebuilding, and they're rebuilding from the docks in, and you're still seeing lots of areas that are completely burned out, and the walls are still busted open, and basically when the Scarlet Brotherhood left, they torched everything.
Yeah.
So it was that, I'm
gonna
take my ball and go home.
Screw all moment that
just
leaving nothing behind for people to rebuild.
Right.
They would have to go right from the ground up, essentially.
Yep. And there were still some foundations for some of the buildings that were able to be salvaged, and they're just rebuilding on those foundations, which has allowed them to get things up, like the tavern and the inn, a lot of the stuff down on the docks, some of the warehouses, things like that, and some homes now. A lot of people are still living in tents, and it's coming up on winter, so they're trying to get as much work done as they can. And what you guys realized was that a lot of the stuff that you were bringing with you was supplies to help them rebuild. It was wood, iron nails, spikes, just some raw iron ore. They do have a blacksmith shop that is up and working right now. Some coal, and then some foodstuffs like grains and things like that, flour, things that they would need to get by.
Which I think kind of almost surprised the majority of us, considering the nature of our captain and with what we were anticipating, that going with him versus I believe a dwarf that was more military, correct?
Yep.
That some of the group wanted to continue on with, because the current captain was a little too piratey for some people's tastes. But it actually didn't turn out that way. It actually turned out to be, more of a, humanitarian event.
Yeah, and actually during that fight, you also really got to see the captain in battle for the first time. You saw him a little bit on the ship, but not like what you saw in town.
That's right.
And you watched him like taking out guys.
Yeah, those sneak attacks, you can tell that where the dice were adding up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing 45 or so damage, 30 to 40 damage each one of those attacks.
And sneak attack is nasty.
Oh, looks like we have Russ joining us.
Yep, we do. As long as he's not a chipmunk. No, we can't hear you yet, Russ.
His audio's connecting. There, should be good.
As long as he's not a chipmunk.
Hi, guys.
Hey, you're not a chipmunk tonight.
Ah, you're good.
Sorry about that. I assume you guys are broadcasting.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Hi, guys. Hi, fan. I got a letter today, unfortunately, from unemployment, and is one of those request for information, further info, blah, blah, blah. And part of it is like, it looks like, we want to know what's going on. It looks like you've been working. And I am like, I have been working. I've been working about 20 hours a week, but because of the pay rate, it might look like I've been, making more or whatever, or working more. And I'm like, I've been working like 16 to 24 hours a week for the last like 10 weeks. So now we're finally starting to get into full-time hours. And I was like, this was going to be my last time certifying for unemployment. And I was just going to go, okay, I'm back to work. And now I've got to go to HR tomorrow and and show like, okay, these are how much I've been claiming, how much have you guys been telling them, and saying, and if anything, I might have been rounding up when I should have been rounding down or something. I don't know. But, and it just freaked me out. It's one of those things because, of course, the documents are always like, it says things like, you could potentially you could potentially go to jail, and you could potentially have to pay 1.5 times of it back, and all this other shit. So
yeah, it's I've had to go through that before in some of my previous roles, even for like a week of like shutdown, for example, and like the paperwork and everything. You need to have it all like double checked and verified and all that. It's a process, but
it's just horse crap. I'm not lying. And I've been doing this for a little while, so it's like I'm not trying to lie. So it just plucked on my anxiety nerve, and it's like I gotta get this taken care of. And by the time, and then 8:30 had rolled around, and I'm like, Chris, So I had to finish up.
Nope, that's a priority. Totally understand.
So what are we talking about?
We were just kind of going through summarizing.
The 2 episodes ago, when the fight in the village, in the town of Scant.
Yes, the Manticores.
Yes, and the quick thinking of Klimbrum to use the Iron Bands of Bolero on the one.
Oh man, yeah. It's interesting how just sometimes the use of one magic item can turn the tide.
Population control. That's what it's. 2 manticores, no, but if you can at least take one of them out of the scenario.
At least temporarily. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh-oh.
What?
Sure. No, you're fine.
You're fine.
You're fine. We can see you.
Legit, everyone froze.
Oh.
Are we still frozen?
No.
But yeah, it was great.
That's my waiting to reload dance.
Yeah, it was great because literally, somebody new came in and left. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Premise Land. He's the guy that he started following us last week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, cool.
And with that particular battle, we hit level 7.
We did. That was great.
Oh, that's right.
Finally.
Which was, I think, long waited for all of us. We've been really eagerly waiting for that moment.
The interesting thing about level 7, it is a nice, you get your normal bump, but there for a lot of classes, it's not like there's nothing major.
Your spellcasters get 4th level spells.
Okay, there's that. Yeah,
which is huge.
Yeah,
because that's a big jump in power. And I believe Klimbram got some really cool stuff too with going up to 7th.
I have evasion, essentially.
That's right.
Which is
What does that
huge.
What does that
Yeah.
do again?
Evasion. It's where a dex saving throw, if she fails, she takes half damage. If she succeeds, she takes no damage.
It's
Oh,
one of
that's
it's a major
For
dope
Dex?
monk shit thing.
Yeah.
Rogues get it too.
Yeah, rogues also get it.
so that it so let's say
Everyone froze
another,
again.
like evil wizard casting fireball.
Oh, there we go.
So like an evil wizard casting fireball to you, you have a chance of taking no damage on that.
Correct.
That's pretty cool.
Even if I fail, I take half.
Right.
But it
It's-
uses up a reaction.
Right.
Yeah, it's only if she has a reaction. So
Yeah.
That's fine.
So,
Do you use reactions very much?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the some of my dope monk shit are reactions, like catching the
like catching. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, catching arrows and that.
Because I use reactions quite a bit, either between shield or.
Yeah, not
the
quite
nat
as often
ones.
as like
yeah, I was gonna
you
say,
would with
it's,
shield
it's
and
really
that.
nat ones that you use those reactions a lot.
Yeah.
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 It is kind
What's
of
the
funny.
tally?
I have to do the final tally, but I
It's
try
a
and keep
lot.
one every week. Yeah.
Nice.
But Chris is always good to point out whether or not I'm outside of the 30 feet.
Oh
I
yeah,
can't do
hell
it.
yeah.
I mean, you have to. Like,
Well, it's like I'm
Totally
still
understand
watching.
it.
I'm still watching Critical Role right now, and not to talk about another show that that inspired ours, but
Mhm.
Well, it's a big deal. The show is
It-
a big deal. It's a
yeah,
big
it
deal
is.
in a lot of our.
and
There's
it
a lot
was.
of
I think it's been great for the
inspiration.
D&D community, but watching Sam Riegel play his halfling and roll a nat 1 and not use his halfling luck ever.
I have
Yeah.
zero shame on that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like
I think-
Liam's like, you know what? Next campaign, I'm making a halfling, and I'm going to spam the shit out of that.
I think Sam uses it or attempts to use it once in the entire campaign.
Yeah.
Well, I get like why he would want
Yep.
it, but for like,
Yeah.
And it's
you know-
coming up, Chris.
Yeah.
but from that's what actually drew me to the halfling character as such, being so unique. I wanted to, it didn't sound like anyone else was going to be that, and I was actually naturally drawn to that. And same thing with the wizard, and I thought that was actually a really cool combination for like my character.
It's a very unique combination. You don't see it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is, I wanted to have a little bit of a challenge because I know wizards are a little bit more of a challenging for a newer character, which is
Yes, actually,
odd to me.
most beginners don't go for magic
I
user
think
characters.
I think Russ is a little lagging.
I
Okay.
I don't think so.
Oh,
And
but
that's
like,
actually what I've read too. Is
most-
that very thing, which is
most
actually kind of
beginning-
interesting.
most beginning characters or beginning players tend to play like fighter classes because traditionally it was, and particularly in the earlier versions of D&D, it was a lot easier to play a fighter.
yep.
Okay.
I swing my sword. Do I hit? Nah. It's
Yeah.
not. It wasn't.
How do I do
complicated.
Thaco again?
Yeah. What do I gotta hit? What do I gotta roll? What?
Now
which of these
that-
dice?
It's a great name for a dog
What
to a
Thaco?
nerd family. Thaco, yeah.
Yeah.
Only
Another one,
OG
folks.
nerds will get it.
So
Thaco! Thaco!
do you know what
Get your ass in
do
here!
you even know what Thaco is, Pete?
No.
It's
So-
an acronym.
It's an acronym.
Right.
So for back in
Okay.
like second edition,
Right.
you had your to hit roll was actually 2-hit armor class 0, and everything was based
Okay.
off of that. So that's
Okay.
what Thaco was, to hit armor class 0. So
Oh, okay.
THACO.
So
And-
what your Thaco was the number that you needed to roll, or the number you needed to get after your roll and your pluses,
Yep.
Yeah.
to get to that number.
To hit
So-
armor class
Okay.
0, and then everything was based off that. So, and the
If it
lower
was-
your armor class, the better.
Right.
So,
Oh.
like if you had like a Thaco of 17, then to hit something with an armor class of 5, you would need a 12.
Oh.
To hit
wow.
something with a negative
Okay.
3, you would need a 20.
20, right.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah. And so yeah, everything was based on that, But
Yeah, you
but
could have
getting
negative armor class. It was
negative armor classes. I mean, like if you were a knight in full plate mail with a good dex,
and
and you had
magical armor.
with magical armor or whatever, and you had a negative, 3 armor class or negative 4 armor class, you were damn hard to hit.
Well, dragons had like negative 4+ armor classes.
Yeah, easily. So, but they've obviously changed that now, and it's a much cleaner, much easier system. And
I haven't done any research on any of the previous revisions of D&D other than 5e, which I know was.
It's honestly not worth it.
Quite simplified from my understanding.
Yeah, yeah. We've often said, Chris and I have often said, this is the cleanest version of Dungeons and Dragons ever.
Yep.
And
but it seems like based off of your conversations, 3.5 was the favorite.
For a lot of people,
until 5e took over. Yeah.
3.5 was ideal until this. I mean, Pathfinder was essentially 3.75, and a lot of people like that. I personally really liked Pathfinder, but a lot of people will still say that Pathfinder still had a lot of math.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there were a screaming crap ton of character options and content that.
That's the thing. So was Pathfinder actually Dungeons and Dragons, or was it just part of the D20?
It's just a D20 system.
That's why I thought it was a whole different game.
Yeah, it's Paizo. It's by the company Paizo, and they basically took the D20 system, because that's the thing. Wizards of the Coast opened up the D20 system.
Yeah, they made it an open source.
Make it an open source system, so anybody could use that system and make content that people could play the game in the game. So that was a big help. And then because nobody liked 4.0. Like D&D 4.0, so a lot of people went.
It's like every Highlander movie after the first. It's just things you don't talk about.
Oh, so so a lot of traditional players went to Pathfinder, and Pathfinder was outselling D&D. In fact, for a while, Pathfinder was the highest selling tabletop fantasy role playing game for at least 6 to 8 years, something like that, until 5.0 started coming out. And finally gave Pathfinder.
4 was so bad that a lot of people didn't even want to go to 5. I know I resisted 5 at first because I'm like, no, 4 was so bad. I am not going to go to the next one.
Yeah, if they didn't go to Pathfinder, they backtracked back to 3.5.
Which is what I did. I backtracked to 3.5.
How many years was it between 4 to 5? Because obviously I think they worked on 5 probably
good nerd question
because of like the negative feedback probably from 4.0, right? Because I've been hearing that since almost like your very first show of going back years ago to Nerds with Alcohol, that it may have been on your first show, like about
6 years.
4.0 being.
That was a thing.
6 years.
That's probably pretty close, I'm guessing, between like one iteration of D&D to the next, one edition to another.
Well, considering that it's now been 7 years since since 5e came out,
right?
And people are saying there's been talk of a 6th edition, or D&D Next is what I think they've been calling it, and a lot of people are like, no, don't fucking do it.
Yeah. This is too perfect. This is just too good of a system. I would rather
keep building
just keep
building content.
Yeah, so here's my problem though: is if they keep building content, and I understand they need to keep bringing revenue in, but the more they keep building content, the more it's going to become 2nd edition, which got completely out of control and became just this entire Monty Hall thing. No matter what you ran, there were so many different books. They had the complete Divine Caster, the complete Wizard, Wizard Caster, the complete Fighter, the complete Druid, They had a book for every single character class.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
and it expanded them so much. It made them ridiculously powerful.
It was a like a paperback kind of half size. Yeah, they were cool. I mean, if you really liked playing a particular character class and it gave you a lot of options and stuff. They also expanded. There were a ton of different different worlds to play in too. If you wanted to play in a like a medieval Asian setting. There was
Oriental
Oriental
Adventures.
Adventures, which wouldn't be called that these days. There was, so it introduced samurai and
Oh, wow.
and
Ninjas.
ninja and kempo, and, and all the different kinds of
Bushido
martial arts and Bushido,
Mhm.
introducing like a lot of monk fucking rules. There was like a ton.
And they wound up
Then-
actually implementing that world into Forgotten Realms.
Right. It was Karatur. It was part of the.
Karatur, yep.
It was part of the Forgotten Realms. Then
Well,
I mean,
it wasn't originally.
Yeah, it wasn't originally, but then they integrated it in, and it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't separate like a separate world. It was more like playing on another part of the continent.
Yeah, it was the far east of the continent, is what it was.
And then you had, but then you had the other worlds. You had Dragonlance. You had the Forgotten Realms. You had
Greyhawk.
Greyhawk. You had, if you wanted to, you could do spell jamming, which was the outer space stuff. You had Dark Sun, which was really kind of cool.
Dark Sun was a
that
very
was-
dark world that it was all based on psychic abilities.
Right. A lot.
Oh, wow.
There was still magic
there,
and stuff.
There
but-
wasn't much magic though. Magic wasn't seen much, and it was hard to do.
Well, magic, if it was seen, it was, you had basically, it was a world ruled by what was essentially mage kings, and they were massively powerful. They were the kind of, and what they did is they drew their power from the world, and because it was a dying world,
It was all desert.
It was all desert, right? And because it was considered a dying world, anytime mages used like a massive levels of power, because they had 10th level spells in that game. They introduced 10th level spells. And
Okay.
so anytime a mage cast something that was 10th level, you could potentially drain the life force out of an entire city. So it was, or destroy a old forest or something like that. So
instead of
mages were like reviled, or they were worshipped as god kings. And like it was one thing, like you could be a mage. There were two different kinds. You could be a mage that was a defiler. They were called as defilers, who didn't give a shit about the world around them, didn't just kind of sucked magic energy and just threw it around. Or you could be a preserver, who was who did it. They excuse me, they were much more careful about how they spent their magical energy. If they did do something like destroy a tree because they sucked the energy out of it to cast a spell, they'd go back and they'd plant a bunch of trees to help make up for karmically at the very least. So anyway, yeah, Chris is right. The magic was rare, but when it was around, it was next level.
But every character had a high chance of having psionic abilities, which I don't use psionics because I think they're just way too powerful. Personally, back in second edition, it was you had a chance. You would roll percentile dice, and if you rolled like a 96 to 100, you had psionic abilities.
A lot of people considered psionics to be game breaking.
Yes, because it's all mental powers.
Right, and a lot of people didn't have defenses against it. So, so if you encountered somebody with psychic ability, or if you encountered somebody that had psi attacks, it was like it was rough. It was rough.
So instead of like those mages casting Fireball, it would be Spirit Ball.
Essentially, yeah.
Kind of,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been a while. I'd have to look at the.
Yeah, I believe I've got the box set.
Oh man, that was a deep cut that everyone just walked by. That's fine. It's not too often I get to make a reference. This is what it feels like to be you guys.
Yeah. What was the reference?
Yeah.
I guess
it's a Dragon Ball Z reference.
Oh yeah, see, I didn't watch Dragon Ball Z.
It's because you said Spirit Ball, not a Spirit Bomb.
They use both.
No,
I never watched
Spirit
Dragon
Bomb.
Ball Z.
Yeah.
I
Goku
just
does
not
Spirit
a
Bomb.
guy.
That's Spirit Bomb.
I'm pretty sure it's Spirit Ball.
That's Spirit Bomb.
But anyway, yeah.
Spirit Bomb?
So just so you know, 4th edition came out in June of 2008, and 5e came out in 2014.
Okay.
I'll grant you. I'll tell you they did what they normally do. Wizards of the Coast. They did a good job producing the book. I mean, the artwork
It is Spirit
was
Bomb.
good.
I had it wrong.
Oh yeah.
Told you.
The,
That's why it went over my head. I
I
thought
admit
that
it.
you were going that way, but I wasn't 100% sure.
But the artwork for the book was really nice. I mean, like they always have great art, and the books were put together well. But just the system was bad, and they because they were very much trying to appeal to the video game crowd,
Yep.
to the mechanics that you deal with in, say, World of Warcraft and things like that.
But they didn't even work that way. I mean, I was a cleric that couldn't fucking heal.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give clerics the ability.
Oh, in fourth?
Yeah, in fourth. They didn't really give them the ability to heal. You had basically these little cards, and instead of having like spells that you could use, you had abilities that you could use either once per encounter, once per day, or once per round, I think. So like an attack you could use once per round. But then there were other things that I had. Like I had one heal. One heal I was like 5th level. And I could use it once per day. Other than that, I could grant, and I could say my cleric was in your group, and or say Octavian would be like, Marikaris is hurt or Klimbrum's hurt. All right, you can use one of your healing surges.
Oh.
Which you can do anyway. The only difference was you didn't have to spend an action to do it. But if Klimbrum was out of healing surges, because you only got them, they were like hit dice. You only had so many per day. If she was out of them, I couldn't heal her.
Oh.
Because I wasn't actually healing her. I was just giving her the ability to heal herself.
Oh, yeah. So what's the point of having
That's
cleric
dumb.
at that point?
It really was.
Yeah. So needless to say, 4th edition was like tanked, and it was
almost
a big
universally
deal.
panned.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Hasbro, who owns Wizards of the Coast, they were very upset, and so they immediately kind of went, all right, what are we gonna do now? And so they
complete overhaul.
Yep. So they did a complete overhaul, and more or less, thankfully fixed it. And
yeah, and I like what they did. They still kept it as a more simplistic system than what they had previously in any of the previous editions for Advanced D&D. And they still added some things, like they added the Dragonborn, which I think the Dragonborn and the Tieflings may have been in 4th. And they brought them over to 5th.
I think they were. I think wasn't Tieflings and ASMR in the 3rd edition? I'm pretty sure that they were in 3.5.
No, you had Cambions, which were the half demons, but they weren't playable. And then I think there was a half infernal, but I don't know that they called them Tieflings in 3.5.
But I think that 5.0 plays like a very classic RPG, like a video game RPG almost. Like
it's a turn-based game. So like a lot of games, like the old Final Fantasy games, things like that, where all the fights were turn-based, where you went, then the enemy went, then you went, then the enemy went, type of thing. Those were based on the idea of what D&D was as a turn-based game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, it ended up being much better, and it did help that it was followed up by, or supported by Matt Mercer and Critical Role, and I think that was a really great, happy kind of coincidence that they were able to. That Matt moved over. Because he started the game in Pathfinder and his home game, and they moved it over to D&D. They ported it over to D&D because probably because they knew that it would be a good thing for Dungeons and Dragons, and a good thing for their show if they even silently supported D&D, because they started off being like, yeah, we're playing D&D 5th edition, and Wizards was not a sponsor. They weren't like they weren't the sponsor. That it was like, I don't know, I'd have to look it up, but it was probably 2-3 dozen, probably more like 4 or 5 dozen episodes before D&D Beyond happened, and before Wizards of the Coast became a bigger sponsor of Critical Role. Or was it maybe even just, maybe it was when they got into second campaign.
What?
Was D&D Beyond and I keep wanting to say TSR, Wizards of the Coast, were they a sponsor at all in campaign 1?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think D&D Beyond was at all.
I mean, I know they were using. I mean, they were obviously using D&D Beyond, or I mean, they were obviously.
Well, I don't know when D&D Beyond came out, but I know. So they started less than a year after 5th edition came out.
Right.
Critical Role started in March of 2015, and the first book for 5th edition actually came out in July of 2014.
Okay.
And when did D&D? Let's see. When did D&D Beyond start? August 15th, 2017 was when D&D Beyond launched. So that was 2 years later, 2.5 years later.
Right.
So that would have been closer to the end of campaign 1.
Interesting. So anyway, but I mean, I do remember. I think I do remember the like D&D like supporting the show near the end of campaign 1, you know. But I don't think they were an official sponsor probably until campaign 2.
Well,
Yeah, and then they were
always
sponsors for
mentioned-
all of 2.
Yeah, they were all of 2, except for maybe like 3 episodes. There were a few episodes where they weren't an official sponsor.
Yeah.
Probably earlier ones, right?
No, later.
No, later.
Oh, really?
Just coming back from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they actually didn't have them on there, and they didn't mention them. Because the whole thing was always, and our fantastic sponsors from the beginning of Campaign 2 is, D&D Beyond. And
Yeah.
I
You got a
actually
message for us.
I actually do like D&D Beyond, so.
So do I. I think it's a great.
Oh,
it's
gosh,
a great
yeah.
app.
Yeah.
It makes things so much easier. I love it.
And I mean, I still plan on using it when we get back to the table. So.
Oh, I plan on it. I was using it when we were at the table originally. I had my tablet and I had it pulled up.
Yep.
I know Sydney was still doing it pretty old school with when we were meeting with just a paper with her character sheet, but I was using D&D and Beyond on my tablet.
Yeah,
and I'll continue to do so.
I may or may not use it actually because I mean it's easier for you guys because you can just have your characters up. For me, it's easier to have just a piece of paper with everything written out on it. Honestly, or my little notebook that I use.
Yeah.
No, but just the fact that you can search everything, like, so for me is like I can search any spell, I can search,
Yep.
you know, like, let's say if I were to, like, if I learned polymorph, for example, which I didn't with my 4th level, but if I did, I could look up easily what I could, like, any creature that I could potentially polymorph anyone into with just a simple search function.
Oh, what's a giant eagle's strength?
Yeah, and it's just so convenient, so nice to be able to have that, like, at your fingertips, do a quick 2-second search for it. So
I've always felt that was one of the things that Dungeons and Dragons was always missing, was something. It was like, you know, online tools that we could use, and I know that they tried to do that kind of stuff. Like probably, I would imagine that D&D Beyond, kind of the beginnings of it came from like initial.
that desire.
Yeah,
need.
just that desire and that, like, hey, let's try and have more of this stuff. And I don't think they ever got it quite off the ground. You know, I know Pathfinder had a limited online tool and whatnot, but I don't remember a whole lot of stuff for D&D itself until D&D Beyond. And I'll tell you, they killed it though. I mean, it's got some really, it's really an amazing tool set.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sponsor us.
yeah, please. Really great.
And it's just cool the fact that like you can create multiple characters and do some experimentation of it. Sure, it gives you like, unless you're actually tied to the campaign that has all this like the material that is previously bought. Like I know when I create like one of the other characters that I might have a concept for, it's limited. It's
to the SRD.
It's not, since it's not tied to the campaign. I don't have access to the entire tool set that is within our campaign itself. So it's limited on certain features and that we may not have be able to look at. Let's say if I were to like say, all right, I want a variant human, and you get a feat at level 1, they only give you one option. Like for the free portion of it, you have to be tied to that.
Or own all
that content, yourself, and then you'll be able to do it. But still, like the fact that you can and can like still play around with it even for free, it's like still pretty good.
And honestly, the sharing the content I think is fantastic too. It's the whole idea of if you were sitting around a table, everyone could use you owned the DM's guide.
Right.
Everyone there would have access to it. That was at the table. Because we do that all the time. Like I take my 3.5 books over to my buddy's house when we actually play, and a lot of times they're like, a lot of the guys don't have those books anymore or just don't bring them, and they're like, hey, can I see your player's handbook? I'm like, yeah, here. It's just that simple.
And the fact that like when Tasha's came out, I was able to buy it and gift it to you, and you're able to share it with the entire group. Now we all have access to it. To be able to take a look at it if we were to use any of the content from there. But still, the fact that it's that simple and that open, it's really nice.
Yep. So back to our game though. So you guys spent the night in town, and the next day you had an entire day ahead of you that you were just hanging out in town. You were going to be leaving the next day. So
that's where we started the last game.
Yes, this is where so now we're in the last game. So you guys started off, and rather than hanging out in town, and there was a little meager Rich Fest festival going on, because you guys are in the middle of Rich Fest right now, one of the festival weeks. But you decided that you were going to try and do something for the town to help them out and go looking for these villains that had attacked the town and had been attacking the town.
Scarlet Brotherhood.
Yeah. AKA our characters also get bored easily.
Yeah.
But something that...
Well, that was the name of the episode. If you saw the name that I named the episode, I believe it was Bored and Scant.
Bored and Scant. Yeah, I remember.
But I think that it took
everyone
you by surprise. It took you by surprise.
Oh, hey, there we go.
Right? That's the direction.
I was a little. I wasn't overly surprised, but I was surprised. I knew that was definitely a. Well, I was prepared enough that I was able to throw something together really quick because I knew if you guys were going to do that, I knew what I was planning on doing.
Oh, okay. But
because trust me, I've seen enough that I'm like, they may very well go this way.
It was funny because we were doing what we were doing, and I'm looking at this and I'm looking at what's going on, and I was looking at the combat, particularly after we got done with the combat and everything. I went, Chris had to pull this one out of his ass. Like,
but it was a good combat.
It was.
I love it. It was a great combat.
You guys did get ambushed, but
I like the rolls that we were doing. Like every hour, you were making those rolls to see like were we able to keep the trail.
Yep.
And work together to be able to maintain it on whether or not like okay, we only have so far to go before we have to start going back. And the fact that you had us roll, and we actually rolled, I think, pretty well to keep on going with not losing that trail, and that it led us to.
Octavian rolled well.
Right.
Limbrum did not. She got distracted by birds at some point.
Right. And then we entered our first our combat at the first or second break. But that was a very interesting combat.
Yes.
Monk fight, and then I got cherry picked away.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't think that.
And then I went and fought something else, And that one got cherry picked away from me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really thought that I wasn't gonna be able to like do that much damage. And
Back in the old days, that was called kill stealing, and that got appropriated into video games and stuff too. And because there were some DMs that basically they awarded XP specifically for what you defeated or killed.
What you got the killing blow on.
Right. So if somebody else killed what you killed, or at the very least. Or at the very least, the DM might give bonuses to, for what it was. Okay. And so, yeah, if somebody else came along and fucking finished off something you had been fighting, they got that bonus. And you're like, motherfucker.
I hate it when it happens in Mech Warrior.
That's actually something.
But I specialize at it.
That's something from, especially back in like 2nd edition, that was big. And I remember there was, in one of the groups we had, there was a fighter who would just be like hacking on somebody and just hacking. And then the mage would walk up and go, dart, and get the kill.
Yeah, or a rogue would just go up and go,
dart. Well, it's even worse when the mage doesn't even throw a spell. He just throws a dart.
Yeah.
1d4 damage. Oh, yep, that killed him.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Which, actually, that's also something that is in a lot of classic RPG video games is like they all have equal experience, but the one that get killing blows might get a slight bump.
Might get a bonus
above the rest. So I can see that, but I'm glad that you don't do that, Chris. When I was doing it, I think that my reasoning at the time was we were like the group of us were kind of clumped together, like a little bit on the north end, and you were alone. That other thing. And
I was fighting a monk.
And you complain all the time about getting drops, like all the time.
I'm gonna take a fucker with me though.
But what I was hoping that I would bring that thing down enough to where you could finish it off. That was my plan.
He didn't think you were tough enough to take him by yourself. That's what he said.
I also didn't anticipate.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
I really didn't. I didn't know the power that, because at that time I actually cast Spiritual Weapon, which was
really funny because you didn't normally do that.
The thing is I was actually, my next turn, I was actually going to Iron Bands of Bolero that monk again use bands again so we had a prisoner.
I know you're.
And then Then we saved no one.
but I cast that Spiritual Weapon and
welcome. I'm going to burn this entire forest down.
Gosh, right? Yeah, that was so funny. Oh my god.
But I didn't know that it was like so much bonus action being able to get that, and like that you're able to like cast it and attack with it as bonus action. It's like, oh, you have another attack. I was like, okay, well, I just casted that, so I have to use a cantrip. Okay, Firebolt. I just cast a standard Firebolt.
He was hurt after my round.
Yeah, but a Firebolt is 2d10 cantrip. It's like, okay, but then I critted on it.
It's just a 2d10 cantrip. Fuck you.
But then I critted on it, and all of a sudden I got like 30 damage.
My +1 bow staff is 2d8 when I use it two-handed, and I have to specify when I use it two-handed. Otherwise, it's a d6.
That's right.
Yeah. Is it? I thought it was just 1d8.
It's 1d8. I'm sorry. It's a 1d8.
Yeah, I get it. I get more damage if I start swinging my one-handed sword two-handed.
Yeah.
And I almost never do because I have a shield.
Yeah,
Do you have to drop?
That's why I always, because I don't have a shield. It's always two-handed for me.
Yeah, he would have to drop the shield to use it two-handed.
But I can have upwards to 4 hits.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, you can drop things as a bonus action or a.
Not even. It's part of your move action. It's just you can just drop things.
Like
picking them up is more of a bonus action type of thing.
Let's say if he were to do that, would he just like tuck the shield, like kind of like put it on his back, and would he be able to pull it back at like use 2 hands and then?
It depends on what he wanted to use to do it. I'd say hooking a shield on your back is going to be an action. Dropping a shield is a free action.
So you need to drop it.
Throw the shield is an action.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to Captain America. All of a
That I
sudden.
really want. That's exactly where I'm going with it. I would love America Harris to have a boomerang shield.
Captain Ulick.
I
Yes.
would totally take that. I would take a
But-
feat or something so that I could have a round shield that I could throw as a range attack that would return to my arm. Oh my god, that'd be so good.
Attack shield of returning.
Yes.
I like it. I'm gonna design that.
I was say I might have to
magic
make
item.
I might have to make that weapon and have it on someone else's
Oh,
the Ulick agent's arm. That's what it'll be. It'll be on the Ulick agent's arm.
There you go.
You as a shield.
Still waiting to come
I-
across a bad guy with a cloak of billowy.
Who just keeps
Hey.
escaping.
Yeah.
yeah, it's always out of reach, and he can't get it.
It's coming, I'm sure, at some point.
I have no doubts.
Well, if anything, I think he'll be able to get it in Greyhawk. But I do have to say, Chris, I did like the flavor that you were able to give me with that spiritual weapon. Because I've been like that's been stored in the Ring of Spell Storing for the longest time, and I've been itching to use it. I've just been waiting for the right time. I was going to use it like on the pirate ship during the what were they called, the Sea Fallen, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. I think that there's a change in like what occurred, and I knew that it wasn't in the best interest to be able to cast it then, so I held it on to it for a couple more sessions. So I was really excited to be able to actually cast it and see like just what was able to be done with it. If it was actually would it just fizzle out, or would it actually be like some sort of something that I can control, and it's a combination of it. So I really like the flavor that you actually threw in it, that it's a little bit of Octavians and it's a little bit of Eucharia kind of mixed together to be able to like create something kind of unique. I thought that was kind of fun, and being able to actually use it, like it's pretty cool, like having that as a bonus action. And something that was really new that I was like not really familiar with. So I wasn't really prepared that it would actually, work that well. But it was a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, that was really cool. So now you guys are, I forget where we left off actually.
We're back on the boat. We got back on the boat.
Oh, you did get back on the boat, and we're leaving for Greyhawk.
Yeah, and we were just pulling into the river, which is about.
Oh, that's right. You were entering the river. So I'm really excited for you guys to get to Greyhawk.
I think we are all excited to get to Greyhawk.
We're on the road to Greyhawk.
We have a lot of things to sell. I know that. Renee, what is that? Greyhawk Adventures.
It is the City of Greyhawk box set.
The box set from second edition.
Yep.
How old is that?
Very old.
Well over 20 years old. Let's just put it that way.
This is from 1989.
It's older than me.
Yep.
5 years old.
I actually was just looking this up on. This isn't the
Older
original.
than your
I did
wife.
have the original, and I don't know what happened to it, but I did buy this on eBay several years ago for like $30, and it doesn't have one of the original maps, but it does have a photocopy of the map. So it's got all the maps in there. It's just one of them isn't the original map. It's a photocopy of it. But it's really kind of cool, and I like this set because it's got the full map of Greyhawk. It's got other maps, all sorts of really cool info on the city. But I was just looking today, and this box set is going for well over $100 now on eBay.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. A friend of mine passed away a couple years ago. Mike Wade down in Florida. He was one of the Mikes that I've lost over the last few years, and Chris Renee and I were memorializing one of the first Mike we lost the other day. But my friend Mike Wade,
Yesterday,
yeah. My friend Mike Wade had probably the biggest, most epic old school like role-playing game collection I've ever seen. It was at least four, might have been five big like IKEA fucking like shelves that you see, you know, that people get, you know, upwards, you know, it's 7.5 feet tall, whatever, you know, thing, full.
Yeah,
full. From
there was
first edition all the way to 5th edition. He even bought the 4th edition stuff. He was buying, and it wasn't just D&D too. It was, I mean, it was every book I could think of, every single one. But then he also had, you know, Palladium stuff. He had for the Rifts games. He had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was also from Palladium. He had Champions. He had Vampire the Masquerade, and well, a ton of the World of Darkness. I mean, it had to have been even more than I'm thinking. And he passed away, and a lot of the friends of his that were gamers were like, "What's going to happen to his, you know, amazing collection?" And I believe he had a daughter, and I believe somebody worked to sell off the collection and you know, get money, make sure that she got like part of her inheritance essentially. And from what I understand, you know, some of the books, some of the things, $5 here, $5 there, you know, I mean, it's not that hard to come across, like find a first edition player's handbook. They made, you know, tens of thousands of them, if not more than that, probably. And
but if you come across the first edition Deities and Demigods,
that's worth some money.
Yes,
because it had the Lankmar things in it. It had the Conan myths. It had the Elric of Demeldabone stuff.
The Elric stuff.
The Elric stuff. It was. I mean, it had some stuff that wasn't just the Greek and Norse and Egyptian gods in it. It was pretty cool. But there were, from what I understand, there were definitely a lot of collector's items in there that were surprising. You know, certain adventure books that went on eBay for, you know, $30 or $40 because the sheer rareness of them, you know, and a bunch of stuff. So it was like, I would have liked to have just perused that collection at least one more time. Just looked it over, just kind of gone. Wow,
when I was working at the vet office.
Well, I'm just looking behind you right now, Russ, and I see that you got quite a bit of collection.
My collection is nothing compared to that. Nothing. And honestly, most of my gaming collection, honestly, is all right there, and it's all World of Darkness stuff. I do have some old school D&D stuff down there, or some old school role-playing game shit. But a lot of my... Oh, there it is on the second shelf there. But a lot of all my current stuff, my Pathfinder 2, and D&D 5th edition is in the other room. So
yeah.
I just want to put it in here.
When I was working at the vet office, we had like those like recycling bins in the parking lot, like donation bins.
Yeah.
Sure.
And one of them was for books. And every now and then would peruse it. And my roommate came, like I was having car trouble, so she dropped me off and then picked me back up because she was awesome. And we checked it out, and a nerd had to have died because it had a metric fuck ton of D&D stuff.
Or the nerd went off to college and his parents went, "We don't need this shit."
We ended up taking most of it. But I'm talking like they had the D&D magazine and
the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there was Dungeon too, but there was
Dragon magazine was the official TSR.
Yeah, there was like Dragon magazine. There were.
I have PDFs of almost all the Dragon magazines.
Really? Wow. Dragon. That was the thing about Dragon. It was official, so a lot of they would put a lot of the unearthed arcanas, the stuff that they road test on online. They would test it on Dragon magazine first, or in Dragon magazine first.
It predates like everything, or predates me really playing and really having any understanding.
Sure.
But I know Heather snagged quite a bit of everything because her boyfriend at the time was big into D&D.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is funny because you're right. Usually it's some sort of either tragedy or some massive change in their life.
Yeah.
And because nerds hang on to our shit.
Yeah.
Case in point,
Yeah.
I hang on to my shit. And, I mean, like, seeing, I mean, and not just D&D nerds, but just nerds in general, if you go to a thrift store and you see a bunch of fantasy novels that have just been donated and are on the shelves at the thrift store, it's because somebody probably fucking died. Because fantasy, fans and sci-fi fans and whatever else, we hang on to our collections, I mean, I've got books that I haven't read.
Some people call it collecting, other people call it hoarding.
I don't call it hoarding at all.
I'm like
I'm
that
not
with
a
my
hoarder.
old, I'm like that with my old video games, like all my
Right.
RPGs, like Final
There's
Fantasy.
There's
like,
actually a thing that like men have this inherent need to collect things and to hang on to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's been scientifically proven that men are collectors
Yeah, I don't know. I've
or
seen
are
some
more
pretty.
prone to collecting.
I've seen some pretty impressive collections from women.
That women do as well.
I think it's like
But,
a
like-
trophy thing almost. It's like a personal trophy, almost.
So, so something that I remembered. This is from April of 1993. This was a Dragon magazine that I have. I just actually had to look it up. One of my favorite ones that they did every year, and this is just going back to the whole Dragon thing, was every year for the beginning of April, or for April, they would do an April Fool's edition.
Okay.
And it was a lot of parody stuff and a lot of like funny stuff that was.
I
in there.
remember those.
And one of the ones that they did frequently was what they called Band on the Run. And it was where they would take songs and make them into parody songs.
Okay.
Like in this particular one, there is Fun, Fun, Fun till her daddy takes the longsword away. Brown-Eyed Ghoul. Gnomish Space Marines. And then my favorite, based on Dragonlance, Companions Rhapsody.
I quit.
Is this my real life? Is this just fantasy? Where do the stars hide? Why does evil close in on me? Hourglass eyes looking up at the skies and see. I'm not a weak mage. I know the truth, you see. There will be dragons blue, dragons white, dragons good rise to fight. Any way the war goes doesn't really matter to me, to me.
To me.
Tanis, just look at me. Found a purse all full of gold. Oh, it's yours? Well, then I'll hold. Tanis, please let go of me. I swear I thought you'd thrown it all away.
Thank you for not
just
singing
keeps
it.
going.
Yeah. Thank you for not singing it.
Krista's actually a really good singer.
So Brown-Eyed
not-
Ghoul
that's
is,
not the question.
Hey, where did we go? Our last AD&D game. Our DM, a real pro. I give him the full blame. We were hacking and a slashing, hey, leaping and a bounding. In the misty graveyard dusk with our pulses pounding. Saw you, my brown-eyed ghoul. You're my brown-eyed ghoul.
You know,
That's bad.
I could have gone the rest of my life without hearing that.
But yeah, they had a lot of stuff like that, and then they would have other like goofy things in there too. But actually, I'm looking at this one picture that has a bunch of stuff on there, and there's actually like someone tied to a blonde woman tied to a stake in like this business suit, and she's being basically burned at the stake, but it's all like books and records at her feet, and she's got a necklace that says PMRC on it.
I was just about to say, like, was that back with the PMRC?
I think that's actually supposed to be Tipper Gore.
Yeah.
Well, she was responsible for a lot of negativity.
She was, like, responsible for like all of it, wasn't she?
Well, she was more so responsible for the metal, the rock and roll and metal.
She's responsible for the parental warnings on
Right.
on albums because she actually wanted to get a rating system. Actually, she wanted censorship.
Right.
She wanted records to be censored.
There's an amendment preventing that.
Right, exactly. And so yeah, she was very much responsible for that. The Satanic Panic was a number of years before that, and didn't. I don't believe she was involved with.
No, I don't think she was.
No.
But yeah, that was the whole.
There were other
D&D
fucking
is evil, and there's
monsters.
real spells in there, and kids are really summoning demons, and
Or trying to summon demons.
Yeah.
And they're hurting themselves and all this other shit.
oh, and this kid committed suicide because his character was cursed, or his
One
character died.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that one of the things that they said though was the kid had a dagger underneath his bed, but yet he chose to shoot himself. If it was really over D&D, don't you think he'd have chosen a more D&D like method?
It's just the fact of the matter is just they brought up the idea that these kids killed themselves because of D&D. They didn't bring up the idea that the one or two kids that did it were they were already mentally unstable. They weren't. It wasn't.
Mental health was never brought into it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Ever.
It's the same thing with Ozzy being blamed for people committing suicide because they listened to Suicide Solution, which is not about suicide at all. It's about alcoholism.
Terrible. People are dumb.
Yes, people are dumb.
So getting, we got on this old school rant because we were talking about the old resources that we had. And one of the a lot of the old resources we had were the old books and stuff. And what we were talking about with Pete was, people just, if they wanted to, beginners tended to play simpler characters.
Yes.
So back then, fighter classes were simpler. Now and even into second edition, they still were simpler than say, a wizard or a cleric.
You had your weapon, you swung it.
Right. Wizards and clerics didn't, yes, clerics still swung weapons and stuff, but they particularly the wizards, they had a spell list that they had to adhere to. They had to plan. They had to, look ahead as to what or guess as to what they could possibly have. And it was resource management.
And you didn't have the cantrips that you have now.
Right.
You had as a first level wizard in first and second edition, you had one spell per day.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, at first level.
What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing. You would cast that spell, and then you'd throw darts.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And you're like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm out.
Yeah. You might have you could have darts, you could have a dagger.
Or you could have a quarterstaff.
A quarterstaff.
Yeah.
And most of the time, you were so weak that if you got anywhere near combat, you were fucked.
You also had 1d4 plus your con bonus for hit points at first level.
Yeah.
1d4.
And there wasn't the rule that where first level you get max hit points. That wasn't necessarily a thing. That was maybe if your D&D was like, first level you get max hit points. But you're lucky if you might have get unlucky and have maybe 2 hit points at first level, and all it took was one shot from a kobold or a goblin or a wolf or something like that. You're dead. One of the coolest things that I've seen comic book wise, kind of related to D&D in the last couple of years, was the Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons graphic novel, because Rick is trying to teach Morty how to play D&D, and what he does is he takes him through each individual edition, and he shows them like how first edition, how math heavy it was, how broken the game was, and he's playing with a bunch of old guys, like really old guys and stuff, and Morty's like, how am I? What? I'm dead already? Kind of things like that, and how frustrating first edition could be. And then he shows them second edition and still problems with that. And it's interesting because each issue is a different edition, but they skip over fourth edition, and it's funny. We're going to do 3.5 and blah blah blah, and then and then he goes, okay, we're bringing up fifth edition. We're going to do fifth edition. He goes, well, wait, did we skip over fourth? And he goes, and Rick just grabs him by the lapel or the mouth or whatever it was. I can't remember. And he goes, We don't talk about 4th edition. And then, okay, we're doing 5th edition, you know. And it's
that's
really
even on
fucking
D&D
funny.
Beyond. Like, you can enable like the Rick and Morty content,
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
Like,
because they
if you're
actually came out
actually
with that
playing a
source
game-
book.
which
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
It's some really fun stuff. It's, you know, I think they actually
I need to
did
get
a
back to
second-
watching that show.
Speaking
Yeah.
of it, actually, I
coming
know
up
this
on
is
the
more-
20th.
This is more nerds with alcohol, but yeah, this Sunday is the new season.
Yep.
Can't wait,
Looking forward
can't
to
wait.
it.
Cannot wait.
On
Oh,
Father's Day,
man.
how appropriate for that show.
Such a good show.
For sure.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so but yeah, back to the earlier editions as well. The other thing was in like 3.5, you didn't have death saves like you do now. Like if you miss 3 death saves, you're dead before you make 3. No, there was none of that. It was you took damage, and instead of going to 0 hit points, if you were at 2 hit points and you took 6 damage, you went to -4.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then you were dying. You were bleeding to death. And every round you had a chance to stabilize, but it was a low chance. You'd roll to see if you stabilize. If you don't stabilize, you lose another hit point.
Mm-hmm.
You hit -10, you're dead.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you were say you were at
Dead
2
ski.
said you were at 2 hit points, you take 12 or more hit points of damage, dead. Done.
Yeah.
Were you unconscious?
No, you were dead.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
No,
mean, you
no,
went
no,
I mean, you
unconscious.
go unconscious at 0. Yes, you go
You-
unconscious at 0.
Same with 5th, where
Yeah.
when you hit 0, you go unconscious and you're just making the death saves. So you're not up and like barely stumbling about at -4.
It was very easy to do a coup de grace at that point. Man.
Right.
But,
but, like,
but it
in-
doesn't
in
take much
5th
to do 10 more HP
Yeah.
damage.
In 5th edition, though, you've got... if you're at 2 hit points and you take 20 hit points of damage, you go to 0. And you've got 3 rounds minimum before you're dead.
Isn't it only like if you were to, like the next attack were to exceed your maximum HP total, that is an automatic death?
If you take double
What's
your maximum HP, you are killed. Yes. In 5th.
Double your maximum. Oh, I thought it was just like...
So like if
once
you
you're
have 10
at-
and you take 20, then yeah, it kills you. But the stuff you're fighting at when you have 10 hit points as your maximum hit points shouldn't be doing 20 points of damage.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, in this, but in the earlier editions, you take that 20 points of damage, you're dead, and the only way to come back is a resurrection or a reincarnation.
Yep. The thing is, though, too, back in the old
So
days,
they didn't have revivify and all that
No.
stuff.
but you did have Raised Dead and you had Resurrection. There was Raised Dead and Resurrection, and Raised Dead was the cheaper of the lower of the spells, and
But it cost you a level.
it cost you a level, right?
Cost you a
and-
level.
Yep.
Yeah, you would
You mean
drop a
level.
level, and
Really?
A level. Yep.
you also had to make
Wow.
sure. You also had to make sure that you had the body. You had to have the full body.
Mhm.
And I think it still had to be relatively soon. It couldn't be like a week later.
Yeah, I think it was only a day or something like
Yeah, it
that.
had to be like a day, and you could to cast Raised Dead. Resurrection, or True Resurrection, was you could cut off a finger,
And
bring
just carry
the
that
finger
with-
back,
Yeah.
and they'd resurrect him from just a finger, and there would be no negative
Really?
results. It was very expensive though. If your cleric couldn't cast that spell, and even if it could, the components for that were
like
diamonds.
10,000 gold pieces.
10,000 gold and
Wow.
diamonds. So yeah, if you were to take him back to the temple and have him resurrected and stuff, yeah, just if you had the 10 grand, and honestly, that's the thing too. I mean, back then a lot of those campaigns were very Monty Hall types of campaigns. So you'd have gold. I mean, we're doing okay, but what we have was nothing in compared to some of the old campaigns that we would have when we were kids,
Mm-hmm.
and just bringing in lots and lots of treasure and whatnot.
Well, we haven't really had too much dungeon delving where we're trying to get treasures very much. Not Not
Not
since.
yet.
No, but we really haven't since we left Stone Tooth, I think.
Right.
Um,
Well,
Stone Tooth was
but that's
like
the
a
thing.
really
Stone
big
Tooth,
one.
Stone Tooth is only it's less than a month before where you guys are now.
It's more than
Yeah.
that. No, because it took a couple weeks to get back.
It took you 2 weeks to get back. Well, okay, so it's maybe a month and a half. It's still less than 2 months. Because you guys then you guys teleported to the temple.
And we spent quite a few days there, and then it took like and then it took like 2-3 weeks to get down to
yeah. So you're at like 5 weeks there since you've left, and then 6 weeks to get to here. Okay. So it's only been like 6 weeks since you actually left Stone Tooth.
Okay. But still, Stone Tooth was like the last time we did like big dungeon delving. We kind of did some minor things, but nothing.
Kobold warrants.
Yeah, we almost got our asses kicked, or did get our asses kicked. Almost died in.
And now Belmont's on the show.
Yep.
Just looking regal as usual.
Yeah.
So I did want to just touch on the. I know that we're kind of getting closer to the end of the show. I wanted to at least touch on.
This is Belmont saying, "Mom, it's bedtime."
I wanted to at least touch on like near the end of the last game. I give a lot of credit to Renee and Klimbrum's character with the whole role play situation between our two characters. With my little bit of RPing that I was doing for that.
Oh yeah, on the boat.
On the boat with in the crow's nest with my experimentation with the dagger that I've been teasing for the last couple months, and
which will come up eventually. Which will come up eventually.
Yeah, but I just I kind of had something in mind with like how I was hoping that I've been teasing it here and there for like probably for about 3 months now or so.
Easy.
It's like when when it was on the way to Gryrax, I think is like when it first started like coming about. And you
were in Gryrax and had the
and then did a little bit more with the blacksmith. And then diving more for it, or like more into it, and just trying to develop a little bit more. And then I had envisioned wanting to like tease it a little bit more, and then it was like very dependent on like I was talking to Chris, be like, this is kind of like what I had in mind on how to tease it a little bit more to everyone, and it's like depending on what Renee and Klimbrum does. I want to go in like this direction, like just to see like, but it's all dependent on her, on how determined Klimbrum's character is.
Klimbrum hates not knowing. It's almost like it's almost like her like a sister.
I know, and like, and how much I know she likes spoilers. But like, I actually had that planned out. Like,
not knowing.
Depending on whether or not you were actually going to continue on, like with like pursuing it, because I was kind of teasing it, honestly, like for you, just for the.
You were definitely goading me.
Yeah, and I thought it just played out so beautifully. It was exactly what I envisioned it to be.
Good.
And it was like
I'm glad.
it was so much fun. So like the first night, I was actually, like I said, a little disappointed that you kind of gave up a little bit. Like being like, just don't burn the ship down. I'm like, no,
still burn it down, man.
That. So then, like when Chris is like, okay, the next day goes by, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second, I want to do the same thing the next day. So then when you came on, you're like, I want to do this. Not only do I want to do it and be secret about it, I'm going to cast Pass Without a Trace. And I'm like, oh okay. Like, now, like I know that I am screwed, but I am so happy right now. I was like so giddy, and I was like so excited to like be able to like finally like tease a little bit of what I've been working on with Chris in the background for the last couple of months, and then eventually I'll like do the full reveal on it. And
I have to admit, I'm curious.
But
it's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
But it was just so much fun, just like having that RP going back and forth, and like my character being completely unaware that you're seeing this, so it'd be kind of interesting to see what come about with it. The fact that you have seen it, even though you don't understand it. Yeah. But like that whole like like if you were going to like phase shift up through the shadows up there, like I already had a plan. Like I'm gonna teleport down. And then if you're going down, I'm going to teleport it up, and I'm going to keep going back and forth as long as it needs to try and get away, because I'm like so like worried about like people seeing it, because my character's background is more a loner, like a hermit, kind of like not really open to sharing so much of that. But like, and like I've been kind of curious about what I've been trying to figure out this whole time, but that's exactly how it played out. It's exactly how you played it, and I loved it. And I'm
awesome.
Really
I'm glad.
So it was so much fun. So I at least wanted to bring that up and reiterate it again on this show, because I was like, afterwards I was telling Jamie about it, my wife, and like getting all giddy about it, and like how like I was hoping that it would turn out that way, and it did. So
I like when you sent it to me, and I'm just like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. And then I go back down, and Lauka's like, what's he doing up there? I'm like, some weird wizard thing. I don't get it.
I know, that was pretty good. So what I sent her was like a snippet of what I'd been working on, but it didn't give the entire it didn't give everything, because like my character hasn't figured everything out about this particular thing yet. It's just like what he's able to do right now, essentially.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you had a good time with that. That was actually kind of cool, and I'm really looking forward to this Friday's game. So so we will be back here this Friday at 7 p.m. as it says down below us here, for Tavern Knights, and that's going to be a good time.
It's always a good time.
And we'll be getting Gryrax.
You'll be getting Greyhawk.
Greyhawk.
You want to go back to Gryrax? You can you can turn the ship around and
No. I'm trying to get to Greyhawk this whole time. And we got a lot of stuff to sell, and this is like the big capital of the continent, right?
It's not the capital of the continent. It's the free city of Greyhawk. So it is its own region, and it's called the Gem of the Fleneus. So the Fleneus is the actual like continent that you're on, and it's like the central point. And it's not so much the capital, but it is the largest city on the continent.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the capital?
Big deal.
There is no capital of the continent. There's a bunch of different.
Okay.
It's the capital of the Greyhawk realms, because it's the free city of Greyhawk. So it's the free city, and then it controls an area around it, and it's even expanded its control down into what used to be called the Wild Coast, to help them fight off the Pamarj, because the Pamarj took over a bunch of the Wild Coast and was moving up towards Greyhawk.
So we have three things that we're here for. One, we've been kind of talking about it for a while now, to be able to sell so much of our party fund that we've accumulated up to this point.
Yeah.
My character Euchariah has found out that his essentially surrogate mother mentor is located here after being apart for almost 3 to 4 years. And isn't the Ghoul book like
the Ghoul book
or whatever it's called? I forgot her name. Is it Sarah?
Sarah. Yeah.
Sarah.
Like
is she like her like
the family emblem that's on the
is from Greyhawk also, right?
A region close to, yeah.
No, they're from Greyhawk.
Oh, from Greyhawk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we even have that to follow up with, be able to maybe
I should probably spend some more time on that on the boat.
Well, you tried, but she didn't appear the last game. You actually pointed that out.
Yeah, that's right.
And she didn't appear at all. So I'm wondering if we actually get into the city, maybe she'll react differently, and we'll be able to get some more clues on where to go from next. But just another thing that there's 3 big things that we need to follow up with here that we are like kind of have been working towards. So I'm really excited that we're finally getting here. That's been a lead up for quite some time now.
I'm also like, not to be all like, money, we could have more money. But I am excited to get my cut of the treasure items that we've been hanging on to. I mean, like I said, we've got a +2 great axe that's probably worth quite a bit. and a couple other things, some gems, bunch of other things, and that's gonna help a lot. You know, in purchasing like some items.
On Friday, like you can actually pull up the I have the total amount of like what all the gems are worth at the bottom.
But just the gems, we don't know about like that +2 great axe.
Yeah, if like anything that I was given a monetary value was noted, and I did a quick addition at the bottom of like, this is like, we have a 500 gold ruby, we have this, we have this. It's all added at the bottom.
Yeah. So hopefully we find our own. Shoot, I forgot what the. Is it what's the Dean or the town or the magic shop in Critical Role that
the Invulnerable Vagrant.
Invulnerable Vagrant. I remember Vagrant. I didn't remember the first one.
Or Gilmore's Glorious Goods.
Yeah,
we need to find an equivalent of one of those magic shops.
Oh, I'm sure Chris can whip up some sort of goofy name for
the other campaign. He essentially modeled one of the characters after Oma.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Our
Oma.
So our Oma is our grandmother. This one.
Well, it's not my Oma, so yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know what Oma means. It depends on your heritage.
You can't spend I spend a pretty decent amount of time with these two.
Do they
I've learned what Oma means.
With everything? Does they provide food with every single purchase?
That's like her big thing. You show up hungry. You can't show up full. Because you will be fed anyway.
Biscuits here.
Yeah.
You're so skinny. Why don't you eat more? You're so skinny. Come on.
It's an older dwarven woman too, right? Yep. So she's super tiny on top of it.
That's wonderful.
It's great.
Love that.
Carrying a big old hammer on her side,
Well, yeah, she's actually a former paladin.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow. Very nice.
Nice. That's funny.
And the partner in the story is an elven male, who's this very prim and proper elf, and he's like, "Yes, how can I help you?" And she's like, "Oh, do we have guests? Oh, I'll get some cookies."
Get some cookies.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Probably something. Are you
hungry? No, we just came from the pub. Okay, I make that.
Okay, I get something.
I get you a snack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably something out of the Heroes Feast cookbook.
But yeah, no. You probably won't be meeting them because I'm gonna save them for the other one. But I have some. I have ideas for.
I think that's going to be one of the first things that we do once we get into the city. Would be looking for.
Well, the first thing you're gonna have to do is get your bearings. You guys have no idea how big this city is.
No, most of us have never seen a big city.
I've already got the map all ready to go.
Okay.
To show you guys. So
I would say Marikaris and Lauka probably have heard about how big it is, and we've probably been to like a city like Gryrax, that kind of thing, but never been to like a metropolitan, like a metropolis.
They're going to New York.
Yeah,
that's basically exactly what this is. That's actually what this is. It's like you guys just came from, Des Moines, and you're going to New York.
That's funny.
I'm excited.
Des Moines.
I'm really excited as well. So.
Yeah, me too. I mean, this is going to be a big deal for everybody, I think, and it's going to be really fucking cool.
I don't think it'll be any type.
I'm really kind of sorry we won't be back at the table so I can lay the map out on the table and let you see. Because the scope, when you lay out the map, is impressive.
Do you have like a physical map that you can lay out? Really?
Yep.
I think that you at least need to maybe lay it out and take a picture for scale that you can maybe
attach it to the wall.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah, I could probably do that, but yeah, it's that big.
Wow.
Jeez.
Okay.
Like how you showed us in that picture said.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the kind of city that you like. Well, it's the kind of city that dreams are made of. I mean, it's
nightmares.
Yeah, or nightmares. It's
City that never
crazy.
sleeps.
It's crazy
Yeah,
how.
you guys still have a
how
couple
it
of
is.
days. You guys are going to have a few days on the river. It's going to take about 3 days to get up the river because you're actually going up the river.
Right, gotta do some rowing.
I'm guessing by the first break.
That's one of the things, though, Russ. You've noticed on the ship, there's no oars. There's no place
that's
for the
right.
oars.
Yeah.
And there are no oars. So,
Right.
yeah, how you're going to get up the river is still a mystery.
My guess.
I'm pretty sure that we have a cleric that can control water.
My guess is it's magic, motherfucker.
I'm pretty
Hi,
sure
pirate.
that your lady friend that Karis and Phelan kind of swap between.
I like how Chris.
is a warlock that may be
Yeah.
able to use certain.
I like
abilities.
how Chris got my character laid. It was like he got Marikaris laid pretty much. I'm like, okay, I'll play along. I mean, like I said, I had established that Marikaris was kind of, he's a bit of a skirt chaser, but he's not a dick about it though. He's always like, he's not like, baby,
Let me make you breakfast.
Yeah, it's like, baby, I'll call you, I promise. He's always like, I'm in town for the night. Would you like to have some fun? If not, cool too. Whatever. If I see you again, great.
Oh,
But
I'm convinced that
I think
Chris's character, that first lady on the boat, she's using both of you for her own personal. Like, it's not like you guys thinking that you're like swapping between her. She's the one who's in control of everything.
I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if she's draining us of energy from time to time. Like, oh
Or
god.
succubus, like she's
Or at the very least, she's utilizing our sexual energy for nefarious goals. I don't know. But like, I think Phelan is the kind of guy that he's like, yeah, baby, I'll call you. When I'm passing through town next time, I'll shoot you a message, that kind of thing. Marikaris is kind of like, he's honest, probably to a fault about it. It's like, but he's pretty enough that he can get away with it. That he's just like, hey, I'm here in town. I may be here for a day. I may be here for 2 days. Do you want to have some fun? If you don't, hey, that's fine too. But whereas I think Phelan's a little bit more of a scoundrel about it.
Well, yeah,
the kind of guy that gets chased out of town by the half dozen women that he has romanced after
Absolutely.
2 weeks.
He's already role played it. The fact that like the very next day he's already forgotten the girl's name.
There's a support group
Right?
after he leaves town.
Yeah.
Kind of like fair for.
I was going to say, it sounds strangely like real person Russin Festival.
I was always very honest and nice about it.
Yeah.
But they did have a support group.
But they have a support
It was
group.
I had a support group. It was called the security team. I had at one point, I think 3 ex-girlfriends and my current girlfriend or / wife on the security team with me at one time. It was ridiculous. But Marikaris is the kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that gives a girl a kiss on the cheek and says, "I hope to see you again someday." And
And he means
the next
it.
time I
Yeah.
run through town or I come through town, and if he does, then great. Whereas I think Phelan's the kind of guy that hides or leaves in the dead of night. I mean,
Yeah, and
He's
it's just
Barney Stinson.
another.
good morning.
Yeah.
And it's another notch on his belt.
Yeah, Russ. He's Barney. He's
Barney. Yeah,
He's Barney Stinson.
he's Barney for sure. For sure. Legend.
Wait for it.
There.
Dairy.
Ah!
He is. He's
All right.
absolutely Barney. We should probably wrap.
Yeah, we should wrap things up. So we will be back here Friday night.
We will.
Actually, Russ and I will be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for our show, the Nerds with Alcohol show. But this whole group here will be back together on Friday night at 7 o'clock for Tavern Knights. Our D&D game, which I'm sure if you've been watching this, what we were talking about. So
Same game time, same game channel.
Yep.
Do we
So,
know if Ian would be able to join us this next time?
hopefully, I have not heard yet. I have not talked to Ian or Sydney yet, but I'm hopeful that they will both be able to attend.
Ian was just having a bad day, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was having a
Which
bad
is
day.
unfortunate. I think that he would have had a lot of fun playing in their last game.
I guarantee it.
I'll tell you what.
Guarantee it.
Just because Ian wasn't there to have a good time, Phelan still had a good time.
That is
So,
very
Chris,
true.
I know that you're doing a lot of work in your basement and a lot of planning as well.
Yep.
With hopefully that when we get together, hopefully, maybe in a couple weeks or in a month. Who
Testing
knows,
a new light right now.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Renee has one of the new
we're-
lights on her right now. So
And last week we kind of met up 1 week ago, kind of trialing out those cameras. You
Yep.
have a couple cameras. They seem to be working out pretty well. So
I'm excited.
you got 2 right now, right? Were you able to?
yeah, I have 2 right
the
now. I'm probably gonna get at least one more, and then we're talking about actually using Renee's camera, her actual camera, as the 4th camera. That'll probably be just like the DM camera because it has the zoom, so it can zoom across the table and actually just get me. So that way we can. It's going to be a lot of the work is just going to be sitting there in the basement with all the cameras set up and playing around with like what I've got here, where I've got, the section where it's the 4 of us talking, and then I've got a chat window and other things. It's going to be setting that up. It's going to be setting it up so that figuring out how I'm going to set it up so we can see the map and still see everybody that's playing and that type of thing.
Yep.
So I did get a ceiling mount too for one of the cameras, so that'll be cool.
Were you able to
Oh,
return
that's really
that
cool.
one tripod?
Yeah, we got a replacement.
I did return it, and I already got the replacement.
Good.
I'm probably buying a
Yeah.
third one of those tripods as well, just to have it set up. So
Very cool. Very cool.
yeah.
Looking really forward to getting
I
back
am-
around the table with all
Yeah,
of
I
you
am.
guys.
I am by no means a professional, so if the video quality
And
sucks,
we don't have a background person.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That'll be the
I'm
other
a
thing
director.
is that we don't have anyone to just run the computer stuff for us and change camera angles and stuff like that. So it may be me with my laptop off to the side going, okay, hold on, and just changing, hitting a button to change the view or whatever.
You'll get there's going to be a learning curve, and you'll get used to it. And it'll be fine.
Yep.
You just give it some time. I mean, like I said,
It won't be one of our shows if there's no technical difficulties. So.
exactly. And I mean, all you got to do is look at the very beginning of Critical Role, the first couple episodes from the first campaign. It was a fucking mess because they were figuring that out.
Yep.
And there's a reason why.
And they had a budget and a crew.
Not at first.
Well, they had a little budget.
They
It
had a
was all
small
Geek and
budget
Sundry.
that they put together, and then
And they had a
but
small crew too.
well, they rented. That's the thing. They rented a studio, and they had and they set it up, and they set up what they could, or like a studio space kind of. But it was still pretty rough because it was a new thing. They didn't know how to do it. They didn't know what they were doing, and finally they did figure that out, and it got better and better and better.
Well, and originally they were part of Geek and Sundry, so
right. So, and actually, in all honesty, I think. Didn't they start it and then join Geek and Sundry?
no,
I
as far
think
as
they
know,
rented
were
the
always on Geek
space.
they were always on Geek and Sundry.
Yeah, they were always on Geek and Sundry, but they rented the space from Geek and Sundry.
Yeah, that might have been it.
And then they moved.
And then they
started-
actually joined as like one of their
and
shows.
I think they were
and
able
then
to
they
finally-
moved, and then they got their own studio and actually became their own entity.
Right. They were able to monetize it at least enough to where it started to pay for itself, and then they were able to, yeah. So, people keep asking me, I've had some friends that are kind of like are curious about it, and they're like, how long do you think that this thing will keep going? Because I had mentioned, like Stella asked me about it too, because I had mentioned how they just finished the second campaign.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, how long do you think? I said, until they're tired of playing Dungeons and Dragons for money.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Well,
it's
I
gonna
mean,
keep
that-
going.
they're starting their new show. I think, isn't it this week?
No, no, they're not
next year.
starting. They're not actually starting their. Well, they're not starting the next campaign until the fall.
No, I'm not talking about their next campaign. I'm talking about like their new show with like
Exandria Adventures or whatever.
Yeah, where like Matt's going to be
it's
a
2 weeks.
player and
2 weeks.
Okay, but I mean like
this week is
the
wrap-up show.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're branching out. They're doing like I think this is like a small little like
they're doing like a little mini series within the same world.
It's an 8-episode adventure inside of it. It's also in Exandria.
In Exandria, with Ashley, Liam, and Matt, and then they got a new girl playing as the DM, and then they've got 2 new players. One of which is the voice of She-Ra from the new She-Ra cartoon.
Well, I know that I saw a thing. I think it was the woman that's going to be the DM, and she was like, "I've never run a game where the creator of the world is going to be sitting at the table."
Right. Yeah, I saw that too. That's fucking cool. I mean, talk about that's a sphincter clencher there. That's
it'd be like me being at a table with Gygax in my party.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to fuck this up.
But that's just showing that it's not like slowing down; it's expanding.
Yeah,
like
I mean, they have book series now and comics and now they started a game company.
Yeah, they really are. They've got a prose novel coming out soon. They've got more.
Yeah.
The comic books have all been for Vox Machina now coming up. They've got graphic novels for Caleb, Yasha, and Jester all planned to come out in the next couple of months.
All pre-campaign.
Yep. Yeah. That's origin story stuff. So.
All right. Well, we got to get going, guys. It is
20 after 10. It's past my bedtime.
We got a little late start, but we need to wrap things up. So, all right. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks a lot for coming out. Thanks for joining us, whoever was here. Thanks to Premise Land for popping into the chat and saying hi. We will see you guys hopefully tomorrow night, Russ and I, and then on Friday for the next chapter in the Tavern Knights adventures. So
to Greyhawk we go.
Yep, to Greyhawk we go.
Yep.
So all right, have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.